As we know, many parents still very anxious about sending their children back to school, and reports about children contracting the virus at schools not helping to ease those anxieties at all. Well, 18 pupils at a top Eastern Cape boarding school tested positive for COVID-19. They have since been placed in isolation. So just how prepared are these schools to handle such outbreaks? Let's chat to Matakanya from the National Association of School Governing Bodies. Matakanya, good morning, and thanks so much for your time this morning. So I suppose, yes, we haven't really looked at the situation much, the situation in boarding schools. To your knowledge, how are pupils and teachers dealing with it there? Have we seen lots of infections at boarding schools?
Thank you once again. I think the protocol is more or less the same. However, in the more severe boarding schools, because there are also boarding schools or special schools, it's more complicated in the sense that now some children will not understand whether the reasons why you put on the mask and all this. So it is a little bit complicated, but the procedure is more or less the same. Where the children are affected, they must be isolated. Where the children are affected, they must be referred to the clinic, and the parents must be informed, although it is also complicated in the sense that some parents are staying very far. However, the protocol says that the parents must be informed, unless if the parents can give the teachers the proxy because they are staying very far from home, far from the schools and all those things. But the procedure more or less is the same. Then they have to be screened, they have to be isolated, you have to trace, you have to track, and you must be referred them to the clinic. Now you find that now probably the school is far from the clinic, but now the Department of Education has to work collaboratively closely with the Department of Health, so that now how do they best help the schools agent.
So how is isolation working at boarding schools in Matakanya? Are they being isolated at school? Like you say, some parents live far away, which is why their kids are in boarding school as well. Or are they making a plan to send them home to isolate? How is it working as far as you know?
So they must, the isolation, a school must have a space. They must ensure that now they leave some classes for isolating these children. But, in a boarding school, then you must understand that it may not be urgent to parent to go there. So they must isolate those children in a very comfortable area where it must sound like a home whilst they are waiting for the parent. And then work with the Department of Health, so that in some instances they may not even refer them to the clinic. Then the Department of Health must just work in the school, so that they are able to attend to them as quickly as possible.
So are boarding schools adhering to the same rules as everybody else now in terms of which grades are allowed to go back, or are they operating under different rules?
Come again?
Are the boarding schools adhering to the directives from the Department of Education as to which grades go back, sticking to those rules, or do they have their own rules for who should be at school or who is at school at the moment?
No, the rules are more or less the same, because those boarding schools are public schools. The rules must be the same. As I said, when at some instances, well, it is complicated in the sense that now you may find that boarding school is a special schools where children are probably impaired differently. So there it might be different in the sense that now in a general boarding school, you may refer them to a clinic. You may do other things, but in that particular place, then it therefore implies that now the health department and education must see to it that how do they work in that type of environment, rather than you can't refer those children to clinic and all those things. Then you have to send them in there. But the rules more or less are the same.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks very much. That's the National Association of School Governing Bodies, Matakanya, just what's happening at boarding schools. Still to come.